Whether you're working on an open education project or publishing open access, you've probably been asked at some point to choose a Creative Commons license for your work. Maybe you were given a list of options, or perhaps one was recommended to you. If you still aren't sure what the best choice might be for your needs, this video is for you. Before we discuss Creative Commons in depth, let me provide a little bit of context. Whenever you take a photo, create a figure, draft a paper, make anything at all really, under US copyright law, you are automatically the copyright holder of that work. Basically, that means you get to decide how that work will be shared and whether anyone else can display, reproduce, translate, or otherwise adapt the content. Often these reuse discussions are handled over coordinated license agreements between two parties. This is how we get Sony making Spider-Man video games while Disney makes Spider-Man movies. They coordinated the licensing rights for the Spider-Man IP for different situations. In other words, licenses are agreements that say what someone can do with the work, for how long, and in what circumstances. But what if you want other people to freely share, build upon, and improve your work? Creative Commons licenses, or CC licenses, are a suite of licenses intended to make the process of sharing your copyrighted materials easier and less complicated. Have you ever heard this song before? This song is Life of Riley by Kevin MacLeod. It was shared under a Creative Commons license as part of a collection for YouTube in 2014. And because it was available under a CC license, it was easy for people to reuse and share this work in a lot of different contexts. That's one of the strengths of CC licensing. It makes sharing easier, which makes the impact of your work greater. There are a total of 6 CC licenses available. These 6 licenses can be broken down into 4 main components. They include Attribution, ShareAlike, Noncommercial, and No Derivatives. The Attribution component is on every CC license. This element requires that any downstream user, whether they're sharing your work, adapting it, or combining it with their own content, needs to provide you with the attribution for your work. This credit line should include your name, a link to your original work, and the license information you chose. Here's an example. Choosing the Right Creative Commons License for You by Abby Elder via the Iowa State University Library is available under a Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 license. Additionally, you can add to your attribution any changes you've made, like translated from the original Spanish or cropped to section B, to clarify how you've adapted a work from the original. While the attribution component is on every CC license, there's only one license that has it as its only requirement, the CC BY license. This is the most open of the CC licenses because it only requires attribution, while giving permission for users to share, adapt, or even sell remixed copies of your work, so long as attribution is provided. The next component, ShareAlike, is one you've probably seen a dozen times and not really thought about. It's listed on 2 licenses, the CC BY SA and CC BY NC SA licenses. Note the BY, which stands for attribution, is also there. ShareAlike is what it sounds like. You can share and adapt the work, but any downstream adaptation needs to be shared alike under the same license. In other words, it needs to stay open, and specifically it needs to stay open under the same terms you chose for your original work. So if someone wants to make a Spanish translation of a comic book available under a ShareAlike license, they cannot place their translation under a CC BY license. They need to keep it available under the exact same terms the original creator used. The ShareAlike license is notably the one used on all Wikipedia pages. Next, we have the non-commercial component. There are 3 CC licenses that contain this piece: CC BY NC, NCSA, and NCND licenses. The non-commercial component states that downstream users of a work cannot make a commercial profit off the material they're sharing, adapting, or remixing. This can be positive, like when it stops people from including a book chapter in an anthology that they want to sell at a markup. But it can also be confusing for some folks, like university printing services, who need to charge a small markup for their services printing a course packet. Luckily, there have been cases already where courts found that simply offering the services to print non-commercial licensed works and charging for that service is not infringing on the license. The ND, or No Derivatives component, is the last piece we're looking at today, and it is what it sounds like. No derivatives of the work can be made, no translations, adaptations, edits, updates, or even cropped versions of the same work. The work should be presented as is whenever it is reproduced. However, it can be reproduced because that's the base permission allowed under CC licenses. There are 2 licenses with the ND component, the previously mentioned CC BY NC and D license and the basic CC BY ND license. The The CC by ND license states that you can only share work as is, whereas the NC ND license adds that your copy of that shared work cannot be sold at a profit. So that's it. No one can adapt, remix, translate, crop, or add to a no derivatives licensed work, unless they get permission. It's important to remember that CC licenses work within copyright law, not around it. So anything you might do to get additional permission using an all rights reserved work, you can also do with a CC licensed work. Someone can make a fair use case to adapt a work under a no derivatives license, or they can negotiate on an individual license with the creator. Similarly, as the copyright holder of a work, you keep the full rights over your work, and you can do more with it than what you allow for others. You can sell a copy of your non-commercial licensed work, or edit your own no derivatives licensed materials. The license only affects downstream users, and as I mentioned a moment ago, you can always grant more permissions for individual reuse cases. So what do you choose for your work? Consider your needs and interests. If you're mostly worried about people not providing you with credit when they share or adapt your work, any CC license will meet your needs. You could keep things open and select the CC BY license. If you're working on a project with clear commercial interests at play, you might consider a CC BY NC or non-commercial ShareAlike license to limit others potentially profiting off of your work. And if you've created something that should not be adapted outside of your original format, a piece of artwork or a poem collection that you would rather not be translated without your express permission, for example, you can look at a no derivatives license as well. To consider what might work best for you and to walk through these questions and others, check out the Creative Commons License Chooser tool at creativecommons.org/chooser, and check out our library guide for additional information.